All right. Whoa. Why am I so zoomed in? Hold on a second. What the heck? This is completely unexpected. Why am I so zoomed in? Hold on. I gotta fix this. Not supposed to be that zoomed. That's creeping me out. Hold on. What's this? Is this minus? There we go. Woo. I still look too close. Hold on. There's something weird's going on here with the camera today. What a beginning to the show. Hold on. I'm almost there. There we are. That looks better. There we are. Wow. You ever want an extreme close-up? You just got it. Holy shit. Hello, everyone. DSP here, and welcome to Ask the King, my monthly Q&A show where I answer your questions via my forums, via Twitter, via Facebook, whatever it may be. Thank you for submitting the questions. All right, now, I want to say this. First of all, few ground things I want to cover. First of all, I have a lot of new viewers and a lot of new followers in the past couple of weeks to month. So I want to say welcome to those of you who maybe are watching Ask the King for the very first time. And you may be wondering, gee, how does this work? Well, basically during the course of every month, I allow people to post up questions on my forums on thekingofhate.com. And I sift through those questions, going through, look, for the best ones that'll be great answers right here live on the show. So if you are interested, go to thekingofhate.com. Go to the forums. There's already a thread in there. If you look around in the sections, there's a show that talks about my different, or a section that talks about my different shows on the forums. One is Ask the King, and there's already a thread up for you to post questions for the next show, which is actually going to be July 30th, 2015. Okay, so it's in 4 weeks from today. The next Ask the King, episode 54, will be airing. So you may be saying to yourself, why is Phil doing this two episodes in 1 month, right? Today is actually July 2nd, 2015. And typically I do this once a month. Well, the answer there, quite simply, is that June was a really weird month. June was a month where the last week of the month was only a couple days early on in the week. And I didn't want to do it the week before because that was the week when Batman had come out. And everyone was like, Batman, Batman, Batman. Everyone wanted to see Batman. I didn't want this to take away from people who were like dying to see the new game. So I decided to kind of postpone it until the very early July. So today is episode 53. 4 weeks from today, June 30th, or July 30th, excuse me, episode 54. And yes, you can already post up your questions for that. Now, you can also post up your questions the day of, meaning today. I allowed people on Twitter and my Facebook to post up questions, some of which I actually grabbed for the show. Those are at the end here. And my Twitter is @TheyCallMeDSP, and my Facebook, incidentally, is also TheyCallMeDSP. So you can post up questions there when I'm accepting them. I only accept them for about an hour. So I'm just to give you kind of the heads up. If you are a newcomer, you want a high chance of getting your question answered, post it up on the forums. Those are the ones I go through, and you have a much better chance of getting your question picked and answered if you post it up there. Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get started. All right, and it's going to be about a 2-hour show today. As you know, I usually break it up into segments. It's about 30-minute to 45-minute segments. Between those segments, I take a break. If you're watching this live on stream, just stick around, and I'll be back after a few minutes. If you are watching this on YouTube on demand, on the King of Hate Vlogs, my vlogging channel, there will be separate parts. It'll be like part 1, part 2, part 3, and you can watch those as separate videos, okay? All right, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Lots of great questions this month. Again, I apologize if I did not pick your question. A lot of people get discouraged sometimes when I don't pick their questions. It's not that your question isn't good, and it's certainly not that, I'm purposely ignoring certain people. No, a lot of the times what it is that maybe in particular something happened that's pertinent to the time of that month, and I want to answer a certain question, or maybe I feel that I could give a better entertaining answer to a different question. But if you keep submitting questions, chances are eventually I'm going to answer. And most people, I think, who have over the years tried to ask me a question have gotten something answered over time, okay? All right, so let's get started with our questions, all right? I'm doing it differently this month. This month, I'm actually going to answer the patron questions first. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I do have a Patreon account. It's patreon.com/DarksidePhil. And in the month of May, there were 4 people who pledged $20 or more to my Patreon account. And because of that, they're going to get their questions answered guaranteed right here, right now, live on the show. So if you want a guaranteed chance to have your question answered, it's a $20 pledge to my Patreon. Right now, Patreon's in the process of charging people in the month of June who pledged, but I want to let everyone give a quick heads up here. There was an error. The site screwed up and declined a bunch of people that apparently it wasn't supposed to. I don't know what happened, but they're trying to recharge everyone. In the next couple days, I'll be private messaging everyone on Patreon who said that they were declined, so you can check your info and see if you can be recharged, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's do the Patreon questions first for the month of May. So these are May patrons, all right? So the first question is from Low Tier Lord, and he asks the following. Hey Phil, I've been kind of a silent fan for about 4 years, and I really love the content that you put out. When I saw your Persona 4 Arena gameplay back in 2012, it inspired me to get competitive in fighting games to the point where I could do some decent damage even at EVO. Thank you and keep up the good work. That being said, the games that I compete in are the anime fighters such as Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, BlazBlue Chrono Phantasma, and Guilty Gear Xrd, which if that's even how you pronounce it, I have no idea, or any other Arc System Works games. I noticed that you've acknowledged that they exist. In fact, you even played Persona 4 Arena, but when any of these games seem to come out, you don't even mention them and you don't even really play them. My question is, why don't you acknowledge or even try these games out? I'm sure people would love to see them from you, and if not, why don't we have it for a patron's choice goal? In fact, the new BlazBlue Chrono Phantasma Extend comes out in America on June 30th, so obviously he submitted this question before June 30th. Thanks to sorry for the long question, it's just something I've been wanting to know for a long time. And P.S., if I make it to the top 8 at EVO for Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, I'm giving you a shout out. Well, first of all, thank you for first of all crediting me with apparently inspiring you to become part of the competitive fighting game community. Being that I haven't been part of the community in such a long time. I mean, I think 2011 was actually the last tournament that I entered. Kind of funny that even just me playing certain games can inspire people to maybe try to go to a competitive level and do stuff. So thank you for that. And hey, preemptive thanks if you give me a shout out at EVO. I hope you do make top 8. EVO this year looks like it's going to be the biggest EVO ever with over 7,000 unique registrants, which is pretty wild when you think about what new games have there been besides, say, games like this. You know, Mortal Kombat 10, that's about it. So it's pretty wild that EVO's so huge this year. But that being said, a good question about Arc Systems games, all right? All these games, Arc Systems, they make these games like Guilty Gear, BlazBlue, and now the Persona series. And a lot of people have said over the years, gee, why doesn't Phil play them? Because he plays Street Fighter, he plays Mortal Kombat, right? He plays Tekken, he seems to play the major fighters, but I never really jump into the anime-style games. And the answer is very simple. Because they're anime-style games, and I really don't like them that much because of the art design, the character design, and the gameplay. Art design looks like anime. A lot of people might like that if you're a huge anime fanboy. I'm not a fanboy. I certainly am a fan. I like anime. I grew up with it. I'm a fan currently of like Attack on Titan and stuff like that. But I don't go crazy for it. And when I see a game that's drawn like that, it doesn't immediately appeal to me visually. You know what I mean? And it's just weird. So the character design and stuff in those games is very weird. It's hard for me to look at a game like Guilty Gear and say, wow, I really like the character design of that guy, and that's the kind of fighter I want to play with. In fact, it really doesn't. It's kind of almost the antithesis of what I grew up with. I grew up with fighting games that had more hyper-realistic characters, right? You know, Street Fighter, even though a lot of people today would say, oh, it's cartoony, in the 1990s, Street Fighter was actually very realistic. It was one of the most realistic games you could see. You know, humans, and yes, there were mutated beasts like Blanca, and of course, Dalsim could stretch. So you have to suspend your disbelief to some extent, and there is some fantasy to it. But it was kind of a realistic game with fighters from all over the world, and you know, you go to different places in the world for the locations, and it was fun. And now then you play, you know, BlazBlue, and it's these weird, hyper-deformed, anime-ish characters, and I understand that there is a fan base for that, and I am not the fan base. You're not going to see me at an anime convention wigging out at all the anime stuff going on. I like anime, and I appreciate it, but I'm not a crazy fan of it, and so those games never really appealed to me. On the flip side, another reason of that is the games themselves, okay, over the years. I remember when Guilty Gear came out, because I actually played the first one in the 1990s with people when these games were new. Those games tend to become overcomplicated, and what I mean by that is, you've got a burst attack, you've got this, you've got insane combo here and here. The Guilty Gear series actually was one of the first game series that had insanely extended combos. You could do ground combo into launch, into juggle, 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 relaunch, juggle, 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 land off the ground, juggle, 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 juggle. All right. Now, I understand fully that games like Marvel vs. Capcom 3 took that, okay, and ran with it, and so that has become kind of mainstream. But when those games, those Arc System games were becoming popular, they were kind of the series that did that to the upteenth. And I didn't really like that style of gameplay. I am more one-on-one, heads-up gameplay, you know. Yes, you'll have a combo, but it's not an insane juggle combo that lasts forever, you know what I mean? No gimmicks. I grew up in the era of head-to-head Street Fighter 2 style stuff. And every fighting game in the past 10, 15 years seems to have some kind of a crazy gimmick, and I don't like gimmicks. I like more heads-up fighting. So when I saw these games, I tried playing them, and it was like, oh, well, someone did burst. Oh, someone did this. It was like, it's so complicated, level on level on level of complication when it comes to those games. It didn't appeal to me as a core fighting game player who grew up with the basic stuff of the 1990s, okay? I'm not saying the games aren't good. Absolutely not. I've seen these things at a very high competitive level. And in the early 2000s, when these games started getting to be showcased at EVO, I started to appreciate them at a higher level as well. But it doesn't mean I like them, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to seriously get into it. It's just so crazily, you know what I mean? Like, stacked with crazy amounts of complications and crazy juggle combos, and it's not my cup of tea. So, in regards to that, I'm not saying the games are bad. I'm just saying it's not my favorite art style. It's not my favorite character design. And it's not my gameplay style either. It's kind of like the epitome of the stuff that kind of missed the mark when it was aiming for a target demographic. I'm not the target demographic, you know? So that's the only reason. It's not that I don't like it. It's that it's not that it's not good. It's that I personally don't like it. It's not my flavor, all right? So there you have it. There's your answer. The next question is from Jelcy1973, another patron, and he says, I have a question about your scoring system for reviews. To this date, I have not seen you give a 10 to any game that you've reviewed. For your review score to receive a 10 or a perfect score, does that game have to be perfect in your opinion? Meaning no bugs, excellent story, excellent gameplay, not drawn out, etc. The reason I ask this is I feel no game is going to be perfect, and there's always going to be games with some bugs and graphical glitches, unintended gameplay, by user-created, bugs, things that people didn't realize you could do in the game, even minor game stoppage bugs. I can see this being most present on consoles when games are first designed for PC at max settings, so it looks the best that they can possibly make it, and then it gets ported over to a console, or vice versa. Case in point, The Witcher 3. While I'm watching your playthrough, you've experienced a ton of bugs, graphical glitches, and a couple of broken quests altogether. But I'm playing that game on the PC and have none of those problems. In my 60 plus hours of gameplay, I think the game only crashed once, and I had your stream playing at the same time, and I was playing the game, so who knows what happened there. Sorry to ramble on, but to get to the point, in the spirit of a game, are you willing to forgive some bugs and glitches, etc., and score a game of 10 if they did everything right in your opinion, not related to bugs? Well, this is a good question, because recently, some people have been actually bringing into question my reviews compared to other people's reviews, alright? And in particular, I'll even give you an example because there's a specific frame of reference. I was playing Witcher 3 on stream, and it was just... I've actually termed the game The Glitcher 3, alright? At least on the PlayStation 4, the version I'm playing, has a ton of glitches and bugs, and I don't know what it is, but every day... people go, oh, jiggling around like this, oh, and the bodies are floating, and crazy invisible people, then they appear out of nowhere, quests that don't load right away or don't complete properly. I kill an enemy and the loot drops 20 feet above me, even though I'm in a cave. Really weird stuff that's happened with this game. It hasn't ruined my gameplay experience by any means, okay? But it is annoying and it's jarring when you're trying to immerse yourself in a game and these things are happening. Now... as I was playing this game and I was talking about this on stream, someone in the stream chat said, oh, well, did you hear Angry Joe gave this game a 10 out of 10? But he said that there's bugs in the game, but he gave it a 10 out of 10. And so how could Angry Joe have given the game a 10 out of 10 when obviously it's not perfect? And this debate actually started up in the stream chat, and I kind of chimed in a little bit, and I was like, well, you have to understand people grade games differently. Someone might give a game a 10 out of 10, even though it's not perfect, because they just enjoyed it so much, while someone else who's doing a more critical review might say, I cannot give this game a 10 out of 10 in good conscience, because, it has bugs. So it all depends on the person, your own personal review. My personal review of a game is that if there is a game that is so, it blows me out of the water, I really feel this is the best game I've ever played at that time, I'll give it a 10 out of 10. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There could be issues with it, but if I can look past those issues because the game is so immersive, so entertaining, so fun, then the bugs don't matter, right? But for a perfect example here, if I'm playing Witcher 3 and I'm liking it and I'm being immersed in it, and then all of a sudden a game-crippling bug happens and I can't complete a quest because there's a monster stuck in a wall, then the game's not a 10 out of 10 for me. It's not. It's just too annoying. If there's silly little things that are happening and they're not really hindering gameplay, yeah, then I can look past them. You know what I mean? And I think it's more subjective than objective. Because objectively, you cannot deny if a game has bugs or not. I don't think there's anyone on the planet, okay? I don't think there's anyone on the planet that's going to play Witcher 3 and say, I played the entire game and not once was there one bug. Because the game is huge. It's a huge, expansive universe with insane amounts of content in it. Of course, there's got to be a bug somewhere in there. But there's going to be people who are saying, I look past the bugs and I love it. And there's other people that are going to say the bugs kind of, I got to say, call a bug what it is. And I'm going to, kind of downgrade it. So it all depends. You know what I mean? It all depends. For me personally, bugs will factor in if they negatively affect the game. In my particular case, playing Witcher 3, yeah, there were major bugs that were happening during quests that were pissing me off. Because here I am, it's a hard quest, I clear the whole quest, oh, guess what, that piece of loot that you need to complete the quest is stuck in a fucking wall, you can't complete it. So basically you missed your entire, you wasted your entire hour doing the quest because you can never get your experience reward or your loot reward for the quest, and it's like, that's bullshit. But keep in mind, I'm playing the PS4 version as well. There might be people who played the PC version didn't have those kind of bugs, as Chelsea is saying right here. So understand that when I finally beat Witcher 3 and review it, I'm going to be reviewing the PlayStation version, and I will make that abundantly clear in my review. This is the PS4 version that I am reviewing, and you should not take this as a overall universal review for the game that may be on other platforms, okay? So, would I ever give a game a 10 out of 10? Yes. There are probably two situations where I would give a game a 10 out of 10. Number one, if it's a game that I love and there's no bugs whatsoever. So I played through the game, I feel it's a good bang for the buck, right? Maybe have some fun replayability, a great narrative, great gameplay, and there's no bugs. I'll give it a 10 out of 10. Or, the other situation would be if it's a game that I feel is so good, whether it just entertained the shit out of me, it was a revolutionary game, something like I never played before and I really liked it because of that, maybe it dared to go somewhere that other places hadn't gone, it had such an amazing gripping story that it knocked my shoes off, that even if it had some bugs, it didn't hinder me and I had such an amazing experience with it, I would give it a 10 out of 10. I'm still looking for that game because there have been great games I've played over the years. I've given many games 9.5s, but I'm still looking for that game at the top of the mountain, and I don't know. Will we ever see it? I don't know. But I can tell you this, at least I'm feeling kind of positive, especially in particular with all the stuff that happened at this year's E3, some of the big games that were announced and the big things that happened. I'm actually pretty excited, and I'm hoping, I've said this multiple times, I'm hoping that the next year to year and a half with the PS4 and the Xbox One, we're going to see some really groundbreaking stuff that we've been waiting for since the launch of these consoles, and we've kind of gotten crap. I hope we get great stuff and not disappointing stuff, okay? All right. The next question is from Sammy Samosa, and he asks the following, another patron, by the way. It's no secret that your internet connection plays a major role in your life. What are your thoughts on Google Fiber? Do you think it's a marketing ploy and they'll fail to deliver the promised speeds, or do you think it could change the way that games are played online? This is assuming most of the US have switched to Google Fiber, okay? Well, listen, Google Fiber, I'll be honest, for 99.99995% of the United States is a pipe dream. Google Fiber is a fiber optic wired, internet connection owned completely by Google, owned completely by Google. So the infrastructure is maintained by them completely. And it's supposed to deliver insanely good speeds. All right. It's in some places in the country already, and those places are reporting it's great. We love it. The problem is it's in very small portions of the country. Now, I'm not stupid. When I moved to Washington last year, I did my research and I found out that Google Fiber does exist in Seattle, and there actually is plans to expand it further outside of Seattle and around and everywhere in this area. So give it 10, 20 years, maybe we'll have Google Fiber here and everyone will have some amazing internet. However, I'm not seeing that. And the truth of the matter is, even if I get Google Fiber, right, it doesn't mean that anyone else in the country is going to get Google Fiber. And the bottom line is, in the United States, We have an internet where the infrastructure is owned by privately owned companies that are all in competition. And because of that, all the internet quality is different. All the internet's, you got your DSL companies competing with your satellite internet companies, competing with your cable internet companies, competing with fiber optic internet companies. And it's just a mess. No matter where I've lived, I've always had issues with internet. Whether it was the East Coast, I had Optimum Online. Here I moved to the West Coast, we got Comcast. And they all have issues, all right? They're good, they're not great. And it's funny because people outside of the United States a lot of the time, they don't understand the fact that our internet is not consistent. All right, they don't get it. They don't understand that, oh, you guys don't have like a steady internet, throughout everywhere. And no, we don't. Sorry, I'm just checking because my phone vibrated. I want to make sure that wasn't anything. It's not anything important. No, we don't have steady internet. We don't. A lot of the places in the country don't have the same speeds as everyone else. And because of that, because you don't have consistent internet, we have people who try to play a game online and can't get the same experience as someone else. How many times have I tried to play, fighting games and other games online, and sometimes it's a great connection, other times it's terrible. Now, that's not the fault of the person who's paying top dollar for their internet. That's because we don't have a government-owned infrastructure in the United States. So Google Fiber sounds great on paper, but the bottom line is it doesn't matter how far it reaches. It doesn't matter, if I get it here, my internet experiences are going to be dependent on everyone else's internet too. Other people on the other end of the game keep playing me. People on the other end of the stream. You're watching this live on stream right now. Many people hundreds of people are watching this live on stream. Some people might have to watch it on lower quality, while other people can watch it on high quality because of the quality of your internet. That has nothing to do with Google Fiber. So, at the very least, could I take advantage of Google Fiber? Yes, probably. Google Fiber could probably dramatically increase certain things. It could make sure that my internet is always working, that my streams will always be the highest quality, that I can always stream in 60 frames per second no matter what, which I could do right now anyway. But it would basically, my videos, they'd upload like that, like bloop, instantaneously. My videos would be going live on YouTube. It would just have to process, but no uploading time at all. Just go bloop, you know what I mean? And so I'm excited for that, but I don't think it would be any huge improvement. You know what I mean? Until the United States collectively upgrades everything everywhere, we won't see a drastic improvement. And that's kind of the sad fact of it. Now, your other half of your question is, do I think that Google Fiber is a marketing ploy? I don't know. And it's something new. It's something that they're trying in certain areas of the country. I certainly don't want to say, oh yeah, it's fault. I don't know. I don't have it. I can't give you any kind of an opinion because I don't have the product. I can't tell you definitively, oh yeah, it's great or it's bad. What I would say is try to go talk to people who have that product and see what they're saying review-wise. But in my opinion, it's a good idea for people who are going to be doing a lot of uploading, downloading. Maybe if you operate your own small business that's server-based. You know what? A lot of people said to me when I first started this thing on YouTube, before people even understood how it works, right? Phil, YouTube gives you all these problems. Why don't you just start your own thing? Why don't you host your videos on your own website, your own servers, and we can watch all your content on your own website, and then you can put your own ads and make your own money, etc., rather than worrying about YouTube copyright strikes and all this shit, right? To which I said, that's great, but that's a pipe dream. You know what I would have to have a huge network of servers, right, that all have my content on demand at all times, that you could have to access at its own private address on the internet, my own website. I would have to have insane, like Google Fiber level internet to handle that upload, because there'd be ridiculous amounts of people watching those videos and downloading at the same time. That Google can handle it, right? YouTube can handle it. I couldn't handle it on my own private thing. You know what I mean? So, yeah, then maybe Google Fiber would make sense, but for me, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Let's see in 10, 15 years. Will the internet change in the United States, especially now with all the things that are going digital? Everything's on demand, right? Every movie, every game, everything's on demand. Will we see an increase in internet? Or will our government, which is typically what happens, bow down to these fucking ISPs, these media companies who want to keep the internet slow, who want to keep the internet regulated so that they can make money? Then that's really what it comes down to. All right, next question. And by the way, this is the final question from a patron that we'll get onto the forum questions. This question is from Whoa Moses, and he says, it's last minute, and I'm struggling to think of a question to ask because I pledged, if you open up a DSPizza restaurant over there in Seattle, will you give fans a 10% discount? Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, that's a funny question because if you're wondering what the heck he's talking about, I mentioned over the years that one thing that I would maybe like to do is open a restaurant or a coffee shop or some kind of business outside of YouTube. And I could put my focus on that and run a locally owned business, right? And I could still do YouTube, but it would be shared time between the business and YouTube, and I can even integrate that into my YouTube, show you daily how a business operates, etc. So that's what he's talking about. And one thing that we noticed when we moved here to Seattle last year was that there's no pizza. Like, the pizza that's here is not real pizza. It's Greek style, it's fast food style, Americanized. There's no Italian cooks in Washington. We've gone to Italian restaurants. No one there is Italian, and no one cooks in the Italian style. We've tried multiple pizzas now. We've tried one that was supposed to be like deep dish pizza. We tried one that was supposed to be, local chain pizza. We've tried everything. Everything is not real. It's not real Italian pizza. I'll tell you right now, back when I lived in Connecticut, I got amazing quality style Italian pizza by real Italians cooking it in the kitchen. Their recipes outshine everything that we've had out here. So if anything, if I opened up a real Italian restaurant with my family recipes and pizza and stuff like that, I think we could do pretty popular and pretty well out here, because there's nothing like it. But that's a pipe dream, let's face it. That's, 10, 15 years down the line. If I'm able to save up money, maybe I could look towards doing that. Unfortunately, that's not my situation right now. The move over here was so expensive. I'm in debt. It's going to take me years to get out of debt before I consider doing something like that. If I ever did open up a restaurant, would I give fans a discount? I don't know. It might be... It might be like something that I have to qualify people by. Like, maybe if you come in with an autographed item that I've signed over the years, maybe you'll get a discount. If you come in with a business card to prove that maybe you had done something on Patreon and I had mailed you a shirt or something, you know what I mean? Or you'd want a giveaway and you still have one of my signed business cards, maybe then I would consider. Obviously, if you're a fan of mine, 10% off, everyone would just come and say, oh, I'm a fan, 10%, right? Because obviously it would spread like wildfire, be on Yelp and everything. Just say you're a fan of him on YouTube, you get 10% off. No, I'd have to find some kind of, maybe a club or something. But yeah, I would consider doing that. Okay. Next question. This one is from Anthony77FX, all right? This is a good question. This is a pertinent one because it's something that's kind of an ongoing thing, and things that go on over years kind of lose their initial focus or their initial message. So let's talk about this. From Anthony77FX, he says the following. He says, "Hey, Phil, I recently noticed that you don't like Troy Baker too much. In one of your videos, you stated that you think game studios should start hiring other talented voice actors for their games instead of always using Troy Baker. I kind of agree with you. I feel like game studios should start hiring other voice actors for their games instead of using Troy Baker for every new game that comes out these days. It's kind of the same situation with Nolan North back in the day. He used to get all the top priority male voice acting roles. It's getting a little annoying to hear the same two actors in every single game that comes out, and it makes me a little upset that other voice actors are not getting any kind of big opportunities, and it makes me upset, that they get all the work and other people don't. What are your thoughts? All right. It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. All right. When I joke about Troy Baker, it's a joke. All right. 2 years ago, I can tell you where all this originated. 2 years ago, I was playing BioShock Infinite, and I have to say 2013 in particular was like the year of Troy Baker. For whatever reason, Troy Baker got like every single major male voice role that year. He was in The Last of Us. He was in BioShock Infinite. He was in like 17 other games. I'm not exaggerating. If you actually look it up, you'll see. For whatever reason, every major game development studio said, we need Troy Baker this year, and they got Troy Baker for every freaking game, all right? Now, I will say this. To some extent, it does irk me that when you get a name, right, that all of a sudden, oh my God, this is the #1 named celeb for game voices, and therefore we need him for our game. Like, they think that's going to sell the game. I hate to tell you this, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think that anyone ran out and bought BioShock Infinite because Troy Baker was the voice of the protagonist. I don't think that anyone ran out and bought Batman Arkham Origins because Troy Baker was the voice of the Joker, alright? I'm not saying he doesn't do a good job. I'm just saying I don't think he's selling games. Ultimately, if a game sells, it's going to be based off of a compilation of everything. Is the voice acting good? Sure. That's one piece of the puzzle, a much greater puzzle that when put together decides whether or not you're going to spend your $60 on a game or not. So, to say Troy Baker, right, needs to be in every game because these game studios think he does such a great job or whatever, okay, but understand that you're probably paying top dollar for a guy that you could get someone else to do it, do just as good of a job, and it's not going to affect the game sales at all, okay? I'm just saying that. Seriously, I'm just saying that, all right? Now, in 2013, I made a joke because in the credits of BioShock Infinite, a game in which, by the way, I think that Troy Baker did a great job in, okay? During the credits, they decide to cut to a filming in the studio of Troy Baker and the girl who did the voice acting for the, the main female protagonist of the game, singing a song together, and he's playing, he's like playing guitar or whatever, basically pretending like he's a serious musician. And you listen, I'm all for people who have hobbies and even dabble in music and dabble in other things. Even though I'm a YouTuber and and a gamer, I occasionally will dabble in other things, right? Now, I'm not going to jump into a wrestling ring and pretend to be a wrestler and try to wrestle people, but I will certainly watch wrestling and enjoy it, right? I'm not going to, draw a huge thing and say, oh, I'm an artist now, but every once in a while maybe I'll draw something. So that's kind of the take that I take it. Troy Baker is a voice actor. That's his profession. He makes his living doing that. He has other side hobbies, such as he has a band and he has other things, but what makes his money is he's a voice actor. That's great. So why during the credits of BioShock Infinite do we need to cut to the studio where he's playing guitar and he's, and he's just over pretentious? The guy, I have to say this, I've seen this guy in person now. He is an over pretentious guy. He's wearing all these crazy baubles. Every time I see the guy, he's like 2 or 3 bracelets on his arm because he has to accessorize, right? He's got scarves he wears indoors, sunglasses he's wearing indoors like he's some kind of a freaking movie star, right? And it's like, I'm just kind of the antithesis of that kind of person. You'll never see me in public overdressed and showing off and looking like a celebrity. I think I'm a normal Joe Schmo guy, and I always will be. No matter how popular or unpopular I get, I kind of see myself as a normal dude. And when you become that guy who has to be the over-accessorized, I'm a musician kind of guy, you put yourself out there. Now, I would have never known any of that if they didn't choose to put this video into the credits of BioShock Infinite showing him playing the guitar and dressed up and looking like a nut, basically. Really, like, you look at this guy, you're like, is this guy for real? Is he really taking himself seriously? He's a voice actor. He did a great job in this game. I don't need to see him sitting in the studio playing guitar and looking like trying to be like a rock star here, all right? And I made fun of him for it, and because of that, people seem to take this, right, and say, oh, Phil hates Troy Baker or whatever, and every once in a while there'll be a running joke. I actually saw Troy Baker in person at the Seattle Comic-Con, or actually it's called Emerald City Comic-Con, back in February. And I made a joke about it on Twitter, and it wasn't a serious joke or whatever, but he was, again, look at him, he's dressed up like that, right? And he's like, oh, I'm a movie star or whatever. No, you're not. You're a voice actor, and you do a good job. So why are you acting like you're some huge thing? And even, I'll be honest, even celebrities, I'll make fun. You see, when you're a great actor, so now all of a sudden, you got to really fucking put yourself out there and looking like an over-accessorized dweeb. Like, what are you doing? And I just don't agree with that. And I could be, a lot of people could say, Phil has no right to criticize, and other people will say Phil has the right to criticize. I think it's silly. I don't even care. Like, it's a joke. It was an off-color comment that I made in the credits of BioShock Infinite where they played this video, and somehow it's blown up into Phil hates Troy Baker, and, he doesn't deserve any work. No, that's not the case. I enjoy Troy Baker's voice work. In fact, when I can almost always recognize when he is doing a voice. And same thing with Nolan North. I can typically recognize when these guys are doing voices, and that means you're going to get a professional level of quality, okay? But no, I don't believe that every major game should pick the same voice actor. There's tons of people out there who are talented and trying to break into these industries, and when you give the work to the same guy every time because of name recognition, that's a problem, right? Kind of same with Hollywood. You see the same actors who always get the attention because they become the hot commodity in Hollywood, right? How many people had no idea who Jennifer Lawrence was? Then all of a sudden she was within like 2 years, she was in X-Men First Class, she was in the Hunger Games movies, she was in like 10 other dramatic movies, and she was in like 5 zillion fucking movies within 2 years, right? And you get fed up, and you're like, just too much of this person's overexposure. Give me, let me hear from them once or twice a year. That's great. I don't need to have fucking Jennifer Lawrence up my ass every movie. I don't need Troy Baker in my ears every game. And I agree with with Anthony here that, yeah, give other people a chance and maybe you'll find more talent. You'll probably find more talented people if you give other people a chance, but that's the problem. I want that name recognition of that big guy. I don't think, unlike a movie, in a movie you may see Jennifer Lawrence highlighting a movie or headlining a movie. Oh, I'm going to go see that movie because I like Jennifer Lawrence. I don't think anyone's going to go say, I'm going to go buy a game because I heard Troy Baker's in the voice acting cast. You know what I mean? So I actually think that these game developers are a little off base with what they're doing when they're picking the talent for the voice acting. Okay? But I need you to understand something. Just because I'm criticizing the way Troy Baker looks and acts doesn't mean I don't like the guy. It certainly doesn't mean that I don't like or appreciate his work, his voice talents. But I'm going to call things as I see them. Look at me. I'm wearing a plain black t-shirt. I'm wearing a silly cowboy hat that I bought when I went to Tennessee. Do I think I'm a cowboy? No. I wear it because it's silly, you know? I'm not taking myself so seriously that I need to have 400 extensions on my fucking arms and colored, piercings on my face and tattoos and fucking scarves and shit. You know what I mean? And I think it's silly. I've always thought that that was silly. And so when I see silly stuff, I'll call it and I'll criticize it, I'll make fun of it. Some people will agree, some people won't agree, some people will think it's funny, and some people will think it's insulting. And that's the way of the world, right? Not everyone is in the same mindset as you. But how many people have blown that shit out of proportion and said I hate Troy Baker when I never actually said that? I just think it's funny the way the guy acts and dresses and thinks that he's such a big pretentious guy when in reality he's a voice actor for games that does a good job, and that's really what he is known for. I'm just saying, okay? All right. Next question is from Pizza. And Pizza says, when you got laid off from your job back in 2010, if your YouTube career actually hadn't worked out the way that it has, what were your backup plans? Were you going to look for other jobs in your line of work or something completely new where you were going to do something entirely different? And if so, what would you have done instead? A lot of people may not realize this. I did look for work. This is what people... Oh, Phil says that there was no jobs. He's full of shit. He could have got another job. And he would have been fine back in 2010 if he didn't do YouTube. He did that just so people would be sympathetic to get views. No. And in fact, I didn't think that YouTube was going to work out. I did, at the time, look for other jobs. There were no jobs whatsoever of my level of expertise. That was the problem. I have a college degree, and I actually had certifications and things. I was overqualified for the job listings that were out there, and no one was going to hire me. Okay? And anything else would have been a much lower level position, basically starting completely over, which I couldn't do. I had a condo in my name that I owed money on, all these bills and stuff coming in because I had a job for 4 or 5 years, and I assumed I was going to stay in that job and I would be able to afford that kind of financial responsibility, and I got laid off out of nowhere. It wasn't like I even had any kind of forewarning. I never got a disciplinary action or anything against me. I had gotten an award for going above and beyond the call of duty, and 3 months later, the company laid me off. So there was nothing. Like, the people like, what was your backup plan? I don't know. Go work. And one thing that I was going to do, my aunt actually owned a car dealership. And I was considering going to try to sell used cars at her car dealership, which would have paid me like half as much money as I was making. Would have been a horrible job for my back, because at that time my back was a lot worse, like way worse than it is now. Standing up all day would have been absolutely terrible. You know what I mean? It's funny how things work out, but I like how things happen that people are like, oh, you should have had 25 backup plans and you should have had this and this. That's not how life works. You can have 40 backup plans and they all fall through. My job was incredibly safe. It was a salary job. I was getting paid good money. I was being trusted and getting promoted in the company. I'd gotten two actual promotions in the 5 years that I had worked there. I was getting commendations, and then laid off the next day. It's like, why do people not seem to realize that nothing in this day and age is guaranteed and nothing is safe? People seem to be complacent. Oh, people make excuses. You got laid off. You could have found another job. You're making excuses. Bullshit. The reason people don't know the people who say that, the people who didn't get laid off and didn't have to look for another job, are the people that are assuming that there's jobs everywhere. There's not. The jobs that there are in the United States are service jobs that pay next to nothing. That's why so many people in the United States are working 2-3 separate jobs, less than 40 hours a week, because they won't even give them full time so they can get benefits. So they're working fast food jobs, service level checkout job, and this and that, just to pay the fucking bills. It's insane how bad things are in this country, and people in the past few years have seemed to put the wool over your eyes, and people don't realize that's still bad here. It is. It's still fucking bad. And, what would the backup plan have been? I don't know. I don't know. I've said this multiple times over the years. What do you do when all of a sudden everything falls out from under you, you know? I'm incredibly happy, grateful, and lucky that the YouTube thing worked out. And now for 5 straight years, actually take it back, because really I started making money doing this in 2011. So about 4 straight years, I've been able to do this as a job. It's crazy. I never thought that. When I was doing this for 2 other years before I ever made a dime doing it, I never thought that I was going to do this for a job. I've said that before, you know what I mean? And, you know, it's pretty crazy. But it's still working. I wouldn't give it up for the world. It's still working. So everything's A-okay. I'm paying down my debts gradually. I'm hoping in another year or 2 things will be a lot better financially, and then maybe I could look to do new stuff, but we'll see, okay? All right. I think I'll answer one more question, and then we'll actually take our first break to rest my voice here a little bit. So this question is from FWC, and he says, "Hey Phil, your job requires you to look at TVs, screens, all this kind of stuff for the better part of the day. Do you not get headaches or eye strain? Sounds silly but true, I just couldn't do it." That's an interesting question. And, yeah, it's true. Half the day I'm staring at a television here playing the games. For several hours, I'm over here staring at my computer monitor, uploading and micromanaging. Oh, by the way, then I go downstairs and I watch, you know, TV, movies with Leanna, and we do relaxing stuff like that. I'm pretty much staring at a screen all day. You're absolutely right. The only eye strain I can really tell you that I get is, I'd say every once in a while my eyes will like burn or feel like they're dried out, okay? It's not like I get a headache or anything from that, and I guess I'm lucky in that regard. I don't have any kind of crazy eye astigmatism or anything like that, where if I were to stare at a screen that was going to kill me or give me headaches or anything. And I've never really had that issue. Keep in mind, I grew up in arcades where I was standing in front of an arcade game all day. So even though today I play games here, back then I was at the arcade playing Street Fighter, staring at the TV, right? And that was way worse because those were back when they were tube TVs. They weren't these flat screen ones that are all energy efficient and don't have a lot of radiation and fuck with your eyes. Those really mess you up when you do those extended amount of periods. So, ladies and gentlemen, the answer is no. Really, I don't get too much eye strain. I guess I'm just lucky in that regard. I know that other people do get it, and, you know, I guess there's ways around it. One thing that I actually got when I first started doing this full-time in 2011, I bought one of those pair of Gunner gamer glasses. I don't even know where they are right now. I have them. They're here somewhere buried in a box from when I moved last year. But I never had to use them. I bought them. They're supposed to be, you know, not sunglasses, but lenses that have a yellowish tint to them, and apparently they make it so that you can stare at a screen at extended periods of time. It doesn't hurt your eyes or whatever. I never used them because I thought for sure, because I was doing this full time, I would need them, and I never actually used them because I didn't need them. So they're around here somewhere, and I don't get that kind of issue, so I guess I'm just lucky in that regard. All right, everyone, it's time for our first break. Thank you for watching this episode 53 of Ask the King. If you're watching this live on stream, I'm going to go away for a few minutes, relax my voice, turn on the air conditioner a little bit, cool the place down. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to end the video, and you can just pick up on part 2, which will be a separate video, okay? Thanks, everyone, for watching, and I'll be back shortly.